receive and place on file the manure management plan updates for Tom 2 Finisher Farm in Section 36, Cedar Township, Calhoun County, Mauer Farm in Section 3, Lost Grove Township, and Border Plains Cattle, LLC in Section 28 of Lost Grove Township.
Mr. Chairman, I move item 3.
Second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Now we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4, approve and authorize the chair to sign a work in the right-of-way permit from Harley Boots to pave an entrance on Budding County Road P33 at Fairbanks Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 4.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Randy, do you have any comments to make on this or not?
Not unless there's questions. I have the official here. That's farm to market extension that runs right through Gowrie, and this individual did get a city to sign off, and if you sign off, it's just the idea of the paving work. It'll buzz right at the edge of our paved road. Everything's in order.
Any other questions, comments from the board or the public? Seeing none, all in favor of the chair signing the work in the right-of-way permit, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 4 passes. Item number 5, now is the time for first consideration of an amendment to Webster County Ordinance number 35 as follows. Addendum 001 shall be added to Webster County Ordinance number 35, subdivision ordinance for the unincorporated portion of Webster County, Iowa. You got it? Okay. Whereas when a subdivision plat has been prepared, submitted, and approved pursuant to the rules, regulations, and ordinances established and applicable at the time of said subdivision plat was approved and recorded within the Webster County Recorder's Office, and when or if the subject property is impacted by later adopted, amended, or modified property setback requirements and regulations of any county rule, regulation, or ordinance, the parcel of land associated with the said subdivision plat and plans shall be permitted to be constructed and developed according to the original setback requirements and regulations as set out in the plat and plans as recorded with the Webster County Recorder's Office. Whereas this addendum in its language shall be and hereby exempted from any and all other county ordinance rules and regulations that purport to or by operation of law conflict with the terms of addendum 001 to County Ordinance number 35. This addendum shall prevail over any and all conflicting county ordinances, rules, and regulations, so that the property owners in Webster County, Iowa, may adhere to and rely upon subdivision plats and plans that have been prepared, submitted, and approved pursuant to the rules, regulations, and ordinances established and applicable at the time said subdivision plat was approved and recorded within the Webster County Recorder's Office. Got all that? Okay. To start with, I'm going to ask Carol, do you have you received any written comments?
Yes, I have.
I'll read that. And I have 2, so this gives me 2 written comments. I'll start by reading those, and then we'll open this up for the public's comment and input. June 26, 2014. Dear Mr. Chairman, I believe adding an amendment to the current subdivision ordinance exempting all previously recorded plats from the current zoning ordinance would be in violation of Iowa Code 335.24, which clearly sets the zoning ordinance as the governing document. If the board feels that the setback is too stringent, the correct procedure would be to have the zoning commission recommend any changes. Mr. Nuff has done his due diligence in 1970 to prepare his plat, present it to the Fort Dodge Zoning Commission, and finally to record the plat in the Recorder's Office. However, changes are often made to the regulations. I would not object if the board wished to ask the Zoning Commission to research the current setbacks in the C1 Commercial District. Signed sincerely, Sheila Lizer, Planning and Zoning. The second letter today is from Tim O'Toole regarding ordinance number 35. I am contacting you to request that you defer taking any action on ordinance number 35 for at least 1 week. I and other principals of C&S products are out of the state this entire week and therefore unable to attend your meeting today. I would respectfully request this deferral of action until we have an opportunity to visit with you and understand what is involved. We have followed the rules that have been in place while investing millions of dollars in growing the economy in Webster County. We would appreciate adequate time to review the changes and communicate with you prior to any action taking place. We would like to verify that the changes being proposed will not negatively impact our facilities. Thank you for your consideration, Tim O'Toole. So those are the two written comments that we have. And so now I will open it up to the floor. Those who would wish to address the board, I would ask that you come to the podium, state your name and your address for the auditor's record. And don't everybody jump up at once. One at a time.
Hi, my name is Chris Scarborough, and I live at 423 3rd Street Northwest. I'm actually an attorney here in Fort Dodge. So I want to address you guys today. Today I'm here to address the board on the issue of allowing a previously platted project proceeding under its original setback provisions. It is my opinion that it would be the wise decision to allow this to happen. While the amount of parcels that may actually be affected by this change may be fairly small, it could have a really large impact on future development of the Webster County area. By forcing those who previously plotted their project under a different set of standards to now be forced to yet again change their plans, it's just kind of an unnecessary obstacle, and it kind of hinders development in that area. It is possible that there could be violations of landholders' rights if we do not hold that a previously platted piece of land should be governed under its original setback standards. We may already be seeing a violation of Iowa Code Section 414.5 if we do this. Under 414.5, it states that a council may impose conditions which are in addition to the existing conditions if they've been agreed to in writing. In this case, at least in Mr. Nupp's case that I know of, he has never he has never in writing agreed to the changes that were placed whenever the setback provisions were moved from 50 foot to, or moved from 25 foot to 50. Another issue that I'd kind of like to just touch briefly on would be eminent domain. In Iowa, we find a claim for eminent domain can be held when a party has expended a substantial amount of money on the strength of a permit being issued. I believe that here, with the platting, we're kind of finding that same little issue, because basically he's already spent money to get this project platted. So I think by passing this amendment, we basically just kind of be giving that same benefit to platting as we already do to giving out the actual business license. So I think that'd be a good thing to kind of just, it kind of strengthens the rights of people that are doing the right thing by actually getting their projects platted early. That way they can have their records on plan. Again, just another case here in Iowa is Raymond versus Des Moines, where the court held that where someone expends a lot of money on reliance on a license, they have that same benefit. So the next thing I kind of want to touch on briefly is section 4.09.05 of the zoning ordinance, and I think Clyde's actually going to touch on this a little bit here as well. But this type of project may already be allowed under the current zoning provision. According to subsection 1 of that section, it says that a lot or parcel of land of record on or before the effective date of this ordinance may be built on and used for a permitted principal use. Here, I don't think there's much of a question that the use that Mr. Nupp wants to use, at least for his project in particular, is allowed. So I think that if we don't let him do that, at least in his instance, then we can be in violation of that as well.
What was that code section?
It's at 4.09.05.
And what case were you referring to in Raymond v. what?
It's Raymond versus Des Moines.
Is that a licensing case rather than a building permit case?
That actually was a licensing case, but I think you could make kind of an analogy between the two. And that's all I really have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Thanks.
I want to share with you some documents that helps all of us, so we can follow along. It's Hopefully I add some, what I call cowboy logic to this thing. If I can. I have for you the first page is the ordinance, subdivision ordinance, and it clearly states in the first two paragraphs of the ordinance, all controlling all future development, not past. So all this ordinance does is control the future developments. That was passed in 2002, and we developed ours and we had an agreement with all governmental bodies in '78 when we first plotted this land and divided it into for industrial development and sold off the majority of the land. We retain now quite a number of other lots that are available for development. So in my understanding, I guess the county, and I might be wrong, but the county records are the official records, and it constitutes a legal and binding agreement between two parties, the developer and the governments. That's what the purpose of recording this with the county auditor, as I understand. I don't know how you can change that unless you have a different agreement to follow that up. But then following through in 2009, when the supervisor, and I don't know if any of the current people are serving on this supervisor's board today that would have been, are there supervisors here that are serving them? And I'm sure you read it in total and understood it, but under C1 commercial districts, it has permitted uses. And as I understand the law that's been agreed, this is a permitted use. And we agree to that principle. That's kind of a question.
I'm reading through it currently.
Yeah, and I don't see that storage is in here. Not that I don't think it is, but can you point out in there where it says it's a permitted use?
Well, it doesn't specifically state it, but it's all retail, and Sheila has already issued a permit for that process. So it is a permitted use. And then the purpose of the zoning ordinances, I think when we look at the purpose of the zoning ordinances is to provide, public safety and for public good and health. And so preserving the value of land and buildings. And if you took the reason, there's two issues here. Number one, I do have a project that I want to complete, but then also I have additional lands that this affects. And so the additional lands are more of a concern than the initial project. So to institute a 50-foot setback on a development that's already been developed and plotted and put on the books, it would be unreasonable to have a change to double the setback rule. I mean, that would be an issue. So that's why I'm here. So I would interpret this as, setbacks are for visibility, so that when you get to the intersection, you can see. And that's the purpose. And when we're looking at that plot of land, from where the building setback is, it's 16 feet, another 25 foot, so you're 41 feet. Plus, then you've got the road ditch, plus then you've got another additional, like 30 feet to get to the roadway. So, I mean, it's a long ways. So visibility is not a huge issue at all. And so, you can easily see the traffic coming either direction. So I would say that for the purpose of zoning, that this issue is not a major issue. If we could agree to that. And then we turn on to section 4.09.505. It also states a lot or parcel of land on record on or before the effective date of this ordinance may be built and used for a permitted principal use. Now, the principal use that I had planned for that is the self-storage facility. And I could have built it before this, and I should be permitted to build it now. Or at least that's what the zoning ordinance says. And then you come to section 5.11, amendments and modifications. And you know, when I went up to get a building permit, I had the idea of what we were going to do. We've done a lot of planning and thinking and looking at the marketplace and trying to decide whether we want to go ahead with the project. So I thought it was a no-brainer, pretty simple thing. I mean, in the county recorder's office, you've got the records. They're official, I guess. And so I thought anyway, and so I was surprised and shocked when I was rejected the building permit. So she said, well, you got to go to the variance board. Well, I got to the variance board, they said you couldn't do it. So then they directed me back to this board of supervisors, which has been a troublesome situation for myself. So, but on section 5.11, it says amendments and modifications. Insignificant modifications. It lists to the approved permit are permissible under authorization by the zoning administrator. The modification is insignificant. It has no discernible impact on neighboring properties, the general public, or those intended to use or occupy the proposed development. So it pretty clearly states that there can be exceptions made, and there can be modifications to the zoning ordinance. It's not written in stone. Like when you plat the land and the boundaries are registered with the county in an appropriate manner. So that's what my findings are in the zoning ordinance of 2009. Are there any questions?
Going back to section 4.09.02, you're claiming storage units as retail?
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Knapp? Okay, thank you. Do we have other people that wish to address the board today?
My name is John Anderson, 2735, 286th Street. The setback from going from 25 to 50 was not, the decision to do that was not made lightly. It involved public input, a lot of thought, and there was a reason for it. Several reasons, in fact. And it goes beyond public safety. Sheila would be better to address that issue, but I was on the zoning board, still am on it, when that was done. And it comes to mind that it also had to do with the aesthetics and also the overall game plan as people perceive living outside, inside, or outside of the city limits and in Webster County. Now, the issue of this gentleman and his the timeliness is interesting. If he platted it in 1978, this is 2014, things change. And that's one of the things that we did do. Not only the setback, but there was other things that as society evolves, we try to make compensations for it in a needed way and in a more planned way as well. That's why the comprehensive plan at times is changed. Case in point, when the ethanol plants hit, that was a big change, and we had to do it quickly. We offended quite a few people, but we all looked at the big picture and thought, okay, we'll take it. We've got broad shoulders, we can handle it. The situation here, there's other avenues of recourse that this gentleman can handle or take. One is the, what is it,
Board of Adjustment.
yeah, Board of Adjustments. And I understand that he has done that. And he failed on all the points that they need for criteria. But I wasn't at the meeting, so you have to check with someone else. But the point of all of this is that the way you have this read or printed out, I'm fearful that you're opening up a can of worms that is not friendly to Webster County. Now, an individual such as this, it can be handled in due course by the Board of Adjustments or coming back to the Planning Board, and we can do things. We've done things before under recommendations from some of you folks, in fact. We don't have our feet stuck in cement. We can move. But by doing this blanket change policy, I'm fearful of it, and I think you would be wise to reconsider and maybe let actions take another course. And to summarize it, in my own personal view of it, if you don't use it, you lose it. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for the speaker? Okay. Do we have anyone else that wishes to address the board on this item for this hearing?
Hello, good morning, board. Margot Knickel, 1731 210th Street. I would echo a lot of the things that John said. My concern when I first saw this come out in the paper is the fact that we're making a somewhat blanket change without maybe doing the proper research that we needed to do. When issues like this come before the Planning and Zoning Board, you know, we put a lot of time into it. Sheila does a lot of background work, recent issues that came before the board. The board asked, who is this going to affect? With this particular addendum that you want to add, I'm not convinced that I'm sure who this is all going to affect. Obviously, it's going to affect Mr. Nutt's property, but it may affect other areas in the county, and I think without doing the proper research on that, we should, you know, take a little bit of time to step back and see what we can do. And like John said, you know, nothing is set in stone. When we made the changes in 2009, there were public hearings. People were allowed to come and voice those opinions. I was one of them, Mr. Denkel. As you remember, we had quite a few conversations over some changes that were being made, and we were able to work together and come to some agreements. Mr. Bill Thatcher also came before the board with some issues that he had to some of the changes, and again, we were able to work with him. If, you know, I'm not here to slam anyone else, but I feel as part of planning and zoning that we still have some responsibility, personal responsibilities as citizens, property owners, and business owners to stay up on these things. It's come before the board a couple of times where someone has bought a piece of property and then after the fact said, oh, I'd like to do this, but I'm not in the proper zone. And I feel that the board is, you know, we've tried to work with them, and you know, if this would like to come before the planning and zoning board, we'll certainly look at it. But to make this addendum to blanket, make this change for the whole county, I think is like John said, opening a can of worms and is maybe setting a real dangerous precedent. So.
Thank you. We have questions for the speaker? Okay. Thank you. Do we have others? Mr. Nutt, would you like?
I'd like to address the I think there's a little confusion of what's going on here. Number one, you know, the zoning ordinance that was passed in 2002 on the subdivision ordinance controls future development. Now, that didn't change. And this, what was proposed, I didn't write it. I guess the county attorney's office wrote it. And you know, so this turns out to be a non-hearing on that as far as I can see. It's pretty well addressed in the ordinance, and so that doesn't change anything. But it does identify that future developments are affected. If I was going to develop an industrial park today, I would know that I had 50-foot setbacks. I didn't plan on that because it wasn't there. It's 25-foot setbacks. So what you have is partial taking of land, land that you cannot use. And it was plotted as an official document and an agreement between the county, the city, And that was before planning and zoning in this, in Webster County. But then that's the reason these languages are put in there to accept the existing zoning or developments that are there unless given proper notice. And so that's the issue. The issue is the hearing here. I know that was the way it was published, but it's really a non-hearing.
Any other comments today? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to declare the hearing closed. Move on to item number 6, and I'm going to change and just make item number 6 consider the first consideration of an amendment to Webster County Ordinance number 35.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Board, let's weigh in on this. We've heard the comments from the public on this. I guess I will, just for clarification purposes, I will state that I am the one that was responsible for asking Mr. Baldridge to create this language as a way to deal with existing subdivisions that have been lawfully platted and approved and accepted and placed on file. So it was at the request of Mr. Nutt that we try to do something to allow the work and investment that he had done. So just for clarification purposes, that's where the language came from. So I ask the board to weigh in and give their feelings and opinions and thoughts on this.
The further we get into this, the more problems we see. The more items come up. I think this could have been addressed in 09 at the public hearings. It's probably what should have got brought up and discussed with them. But it got changed. And that's the rules of today. Things change, policies change. Like the ethanol plants came in, we've got to change things there. You know, developments change, things that worked in 1970 will not work today. That's just what I say. I think we need to look a little more at this before we do anything. I think we need to send it back to the people of the zoning commission and our zoning and then toward adjustment. I think we need to send it back to them.
I agree with Supervisor James. We have the process in place and the people that have been appointed, and I think we need to utilize them and their expertise and education and go through the two boards or commissions that we have to do this. I don't think we need to be superseding the people that we put in place to do it.
Couple points I'd like to make. Yeah, when we went down this road, I objected to it from the beginning because I agree with what your statements are. I've said from the very beginning that Mr. Nutt could have gone to zoning and had this handled by now, in my opinion. I can't tell you how to vote, but I believe it should have gone back to zoning. My main concern with doing it this way, and I think a couple people touched on it, is we have no idea what other effect on other parcels it would have. And that's a major concern of mine. We're dealing with one issue here, and I would state for public record that I believe Mr. Nutt should be able to build his property. I have no problem with the permitted use, which I don't think is a question here, is setbacks and stuff. So nobody's telling him he can't build this type of property. And I also would probably be of the opinion that 25 feet is okay. But to clarify, my problem is with the way we went down this road. I totally think it's the wrong road we went down. And I do believe we have an attorney's opinion now that says that zoning trumps whatever we do here anyway. So that's where I stand on it. I don't agree with going down and changing this ordinance.
But from the get-go, as we put originally as a request with this project, assuming that there were no safety concerns, reference 25 versus 50 feet, I've always maintained that I don't have a problem with it. Again, it's assuming that the visibility in that location is sufficient in terms of safety. And assuming that all else is in line, setback, side yards, distances, and so forth and so on. Again, at this point, I would not place, I'm certain, but I'm not in favor at this point of passing this provision.
Well, I hate to be the last one to talk, so don't let me. I want to say something, but I don't want to make that the end. I would like to say that I believe that the amendment as proposed will not really be effective because it's trumped by Iowa Code, section 345.24, that makes zoning preeminent over all other ordinances and regulations in the county. It's by Iowa Code. That's a policy of Webster County. It's by Iowa Code. So I believe it's kind of a moot point. But that being said, to me, the biggest problem and concern that I have is that when we say that a developer makes his investment here in Webster County, and we ask him to go through and do his due diligence, follow the rules and regulations, it's accepted by not only Webster County Board of Supervisors, but the City of Fort Dodge. It's duly recorded and it's on file here at Webster County. And then we change the rules in the future and don't allow what was done in the past to continue. I have a problem with that because to me, it sends a signal to future developers in Webster County that they need to be very, very careful about what they do, because what's to preclude future boards, future zoning commissions to change it again, and then we're in the same situation. So that I'm just going to arbitrarily pick a figure and say we go from 100 feet setback to 300 feet setback. We can all say it's ridiculous and silly, it would never happen, but the precedent is there and it can happen, so that it makes property here in Webster County less attractive to developers if they don't know what the security of their investment is. So I guess I would feel that this needs to be sent to the zoning commission for sure. And I would like to try and see language to address when developments are made, that somehow those designs are preserved and allowed to be intact.
I don't disagree with you, Chairman. I think it's a great project. Anytime you have somebody who wants to invest money in the county, we want to encourage it. And I think that tool is in place when they do updates to our comprehensive plan or our zoning. They have public input, and it is all published. And developers do look at that and say, wait a minute, that is going to affect me negatively, so I do need to come to that public input and express my concern. I am in agreement with Supervisor Leffler. 25 foot to me seems logical. However, a prior board approved 50. So that's what we have. That's the tool we're in place to work with right now. Do I think they can come together and come to an agreement somehow in the near future? Absolutely. We've got a great board to work with. So that's why I don't agree with us with a blanket ordinance. No disrespect to our attorney who wrote it. But I think we have people in place that can come together and work it out. And that's what the public input for. When you see these things in the paper and you see that they could affect you, people need to make sure they come to meetings and express their concern.
That's why we have meetings.
Yeah.
There's always going to be change. We will never, ever, ever have
I don't have
a
a
zoning
crystal ball.
ordinance that'll ever work 25 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. It's always going to have to be changed. And when it's changed, there will be things that people don't like and things that people do like, but there will be time to address it. And the time to address this change was in 2009. And it never got addressed, and it probably should have. So we're here today, but we'll never, ever pass a zoning ordinance, not for that to change somewhere else. And this is the process you have to take a look at.
I do agree with Mark's theory in what he's saying, but again, I would go back to this is the wrong road to address that. Just because if that's the way we look at everything, then everything is open. You know, everything would have to be grandfathered in, and then why have something if everything's grandfathered in? So I agree with you on the concept that if I were doing a development today, I would want to have some assurances that I could continue that development over at least some period of time, and not have it shut down. But again, under this way of thinking of things, we don't know how it's going to affect all the other parcels around. And I could carry it to that you would deal with everything. That I could build a commercial property in a residential area because it was originally set up as a residential, residential or commercial and changed. So, I don't want to keep going on. It's just totally the wrong road to go down.
Mr. Chairman, not to belabor the point, but I would like to mention that served on the City Planning and Zoning Commission for a great long while. We did have a variety of changes throughout that period of time. In most cases, it did generate significant interest when we had controversial changes. That there are folks out there that are, for lack of a better term, watchdogs that clearly will come and express their concern, yea or nay. That's not to say that everybody is informed and everybody has an opportunity to react, because that's not true. They're message put out to the public, but they missed it, okay? In those particular instances, most of the time, practically speaking, the city tried to work it out. I won't go into it, but science was probably a pretty good example of how things had to be worked out from time to time in an effort to kind of corral the sign issues that we had here in Fort Wayne. But as it stands, again, I don't disagree with the majority of the time, but hopefully the system is such that there is input, and as it was referred to, the county did have some input on this, maybe not enough, and maybe not the right people, but there was some input there.
Okay, we have a letter here from our zoning director, and in it she states that I would not object if the board wished to ask the zoning commission to research the current setbacks in the C1 commercial district. Is anyone on the board of the inkling to make a motion to direct the zoning administrator to ask the zoning commission to research those?